Dee Dee Merritt, thanks so much for being here. Really appreciate your time. Polls consistently had Haaland well ahead of Sam Bregman, but she actually won in her 44-point victory by more than what was expected. What were some of the big factors you feel like were at play in that race?
Money. I mean, Peter St. Cyr, who's just fantastic at a lot of things, he ran the numbers and posted them just recently, I think 2 hours ago, $68.60 per voter for Deb Haaland.
Wow. And how does that compare to what Bregman was spending?
I think he was actually about the same, but she just had a lot more of it.
Okay.
So they were spending about the same per vote, but she had a lot more money.
And there were some outside PACs coming in to fund some of the advertisements.
She had a lot of small contributions. I think that a lot was made of how much money she was getting from out of state, but she actually had more contributions from New Mexico than Bregman did. It's just that she had a larger amount, a larger total pool of contributors. But I don't think it was just money. And I say that because of Deb Haaland's vast experience and reach in New Mexico from her time as a Democratic Party chair, where she visited all of New Mexico's 33 counties, and also as a campaigner for Congress, her familiarity with the people in the metro area, they knew her. She's got a nice manner, she's got a very gracious manner, and people feel like they know her personally. And also, her story, her narrative is really hard to resist. I mean, it's historic, it's compelling, and people relate to it, I think, of all kinds, not just Native Americans, but also people who believe in diversity and the heritage of New Mexico.
Absolutely. So relationships, representation, money, but what about the policies themselves?
Oh, I think I kind of rated this in a column, and I think it was kind of surprising to me, because if you wanted to see the status quo continue, you vote for Deb Haaland. And
over Sam Bregman.
Yeah, and the status quo of state policy. And if you are not thinking that New Mexico is going in the right direction, and one could certainly argue that we are not, as we hit the bottom of kind of every ranking for success in the country, this is not working. Now, she did break from the current administration, I think, on CYFD. She got handed a real win. She and Bregman both explicitly said they would not support medical malpractice reform. So thank goodness it passed in the legislature, because that would have been a real albatross for both of them in the general election. But this will be more of the same. And she's very, I think, oil and gas may see a real reckoning with Deb Haaland as governor. So, but I think things like universal health care, universal free tuition, these incredibly costly programs that we see would continue under Haaland.
You say more of the same, but a reckoning on oil and gas, that wouldn't be more of the same in terms of Lujan Grisham's policies, nor would Lujan Grisham's tough on crime policies were far more aligned with Sam Bregman's platform than Haaland, who was calling for more prevention.
I think if you look at some of the climate mandates on the executive orders, I think we would see continued. We would not see them rescinded. I think many of the policies that came into play via executive order would be continued or perhaps even strengthened.
Well, in the Albuquerque Journal poll, it found that really the one demographic that was in favor of Bregman over Haaland were self-described conservatives. So, Dee Dee, what do you feel like around progressive politics in this race and how that played out?
Well, Deb Haaland was definitely the more progressive candidate, and Bregman was much more moderate. particularly, I think, on artificial intelligence centers like Project Jupiter and environmental issues. He was much more business oriented than she was. Her focus was on families, family well-being and affordability for ordinary people like her. And she just sort of hammered that. Her background as an ordinary person struggling with child care, struggling with health care, all of those things that I think the vast majority of New Mexicans struggle with. And I really think she's vastly more popular than Michelle Lujan Grisham. I think that there was no incumbent in this race. You know, that's something that you have to, that's the first thing to notice about it. There was no incumbent. So it became a little bit harder for the opponents of Deb Haaland to pretend that she was the governor. She's not. Right. She wasn't the governor.
Right. Something else unique about this race was that it was the first semi-open primary. What role did the independent vote play?
Well, as a new independent, I was
personally.
Yes. I changed my registration from Republican to Independent in 2024, and I was actually somewhat active with the semi-open primary effort, and I had served on the board of New Mexico Open Primaries. So this was something that was very important to me.
How did it show up?
It was interesting to see that independents turned out more for Democrats than Republicans. We weren't sure how that was going to turn out, but I think that just may be because there were more people to vote for on the Democratic ballot, since the Republican Party is in free fall right now.
It's more about independents wanting to weigh in on the Democratic race than them leaning Democratic.
Or they had more options. There wasn't that much to vote for. So if you're a conservative, if you were a conservative-leaning independent, you might not have bothered because there just wasn't much to do. You had a governor candidate, and that was about it. So you might have just stayed home.
Yeah. Well, 25% of those declined to state folks did stay home, and it was because they didn't really know that they could vote in primaries. It's been so long since that option was foreclosed. But there were 37,000 new voters. I mean, that's a real accomplishment for New Mexico. These are the decline to state people. 75%, as Merritt said, requested Democratic ballots. That's where the action is this time. I think the boring side was the Republican side, and the action was on the Democratic side. So that's why they voted.
Well, let's talk about the Republican side. Greg Hull, who won the Republican nomination for governor, consistently led in the polls, but it did appear that Doug Turner was making some strides and had some momentum towards the end. What were you all seeing in the numbers that you think pushed Hull over the edge?
Albuquerque and Rio Rancho. Or essentially the Albuquerque metro area, Sandoval, Bernalillo, and Valencia counties. That's what did it for him. And also, what was so interesting is the candidate, unlike the Democratic primary and the Republican primary, the candidate with the least money won. The candidate with the most money came in third.
But arguably the most name recognition, at least in the Albuquerque metro area. He is the longest serving Rio Rancho mayor.
$9.62 per voter spent.
Which is comparably much lower.
Yes. A minuscule amount comparatively. And also shows, you cannot win a statewide race without the Albuquerque Metro. And this is something that is killing RPNM.
Do you think Doug Turner discounted the importance of that area?
I think RPNM did. Doug Turner was the establishment candidate for RPNM, even though, of course, state parties can endorse primary candidates. He was the establishment candidate. And he's from Albuquerque, but he could not get the traction. The state party has been very focused outside of Albuquerque and in the southeast for too long. And this is why we have not won a statewide race since 2018, I believe, and could not even get candidates on the ballot in significant statewide races, including U.S. Senate, a state auditor, state treasurer. It's an embarrassment.
Yeah, I think it's been since 2017 even.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's right. The Republican Party has become identified with rural areas, and that's not where the votes are in a statewide race. So you have to have both, and Doug Turner did win the East Side. He won, I think, Eddy and
the Southwest.
And the Southwest.
and
That's
the
right.
Southwest too. That's right.
Well, what policies took center stage that you think drove that geographical difference?
I think it was personality and turnout much more than it was issues, because the candidates were remarkably similar on the issues. And I thought what was so interesting about the Republican primary is the Democratic primary was actually Trumpier than the Republican primary, in the attack ads and the accusations of Bregman having the MAGA donors, or Holland being on Epstein's plane, and Trump showed up nowhere in the Republican primary.
Well, except that Doug Turner did hold a fundraiser at Mar-a-Lago.
But Trump did not attend.
Right, but I interviewed Turner, and we were looking at the invitation for that fundraiser, and it promised him to be the America First candidate, the Trump candidate, to take back New Mexico. So, but he was a little shy about aligning himself with the president.
Yeah, and I know Doug, and he is not a MAGA candidate. And you know, in their conversations. With each other in their talk about the issues, you know, we did not see 2A, we did not see abortion.
The Second Amendment.
We did not see the typical national emotional knee-jerk litmus tests that tend to kind of tear Republicans apart. We heard about education, we heard about medical malpractice, or keeping our doctors
tax
here.
reform.
Yeah, we heard about the real issues that matter to New Mexicans, and man, I was here for it. It was great.
Well, let's look ahead to the general a little bit. We're seeing a race between Holland and Hull, as well as independent candidate Ken Miyagishima, the longtime mayor of Las Cruces, will be in that race. What will that race look like? What will be the big issues?
Well, I don't think issues are going to be
I'm
front
trying,
and center.
I keep trying to bring us back to
You keep trying
policy, but you don't think that
because
matters.
personalities and the national scene, Trump, what's happening with Trump, that was a big factor in the Democratic primary. Who could be most anti-Trump? And you even had, lieutenant governors and secretary of states and all those races, which, are focused on much narrower subject matter doing that. But I think what's going to happen in the general is that Greg Hull is in a really tough position now with somebody that won by a landslide, 75% of the vote. He's got to get out there and raise money real quick to even wage a competitive campaign. And his strength is that he is perceived as nonpartisan. He's perceived as sort of your Chamber of Commerce Republican, not a MAGA Republican so much, although he may go in that direction now, we don't know. But, and that's the position I think that any minority party is in. You can't run against the Democrats when they have such a huge majority. You have to run as a nonpartisan, good government kind of, I can work with everybody candidate. I think that's what we're going to see from him.
Well, generally, in general elections compared to the primaries, is when people stop talking just to their base and start talking to everyone, candidates tend to move towards the middle. Do you see Holland or Hull doing that in the general election?
In the past, it's been a Republican primary where everyone fights to be the most orthodox and the farthest right. Well, that didn't happen this time. So I don't think Hull really has to move toward the middle.
He doesn't have room to move to the middle?
He doesn't need to. He's already there. He's already pretty there.
Yeah.
Holland will have to move toward the middle because she can't run as a real progressive, I don't think. And when this
even in New Mexico's current climate?
No, because we still have a lot of pro-business Democrats. And we have, I think she's going to have to get those folks to turn out, because the primary is not the same as the general. And she's got to pick up, independents. Now the problem for Hull is he's got to get Republicans to turn out, and Republicans are tired of Trump. Trump is not popular, period, and Trump doesn't win in New Mexico. So we've got to have the folks, RPNM. The thing I'm concerned about is because Hull is not the RPNM candidate, that the money and the folks that power RPNM might not back him. We saw that happen.
So the money that Dee Dee is saying needs to come in, it might not come in.
Right, because that was going to go to Turner. And we saw this happen in the Albuquerque mayor's race, because Darren White was not, he was in a different faction, because it's so cliquish in the Republican Party. He was kind of in the Susana Martinez faction, hired Jay McCluskey. That set off a whole group of Republicans, powerful Republicans, and Republican who backed Democrat Luis Sanchez instead. So if the powers that be decide they don't want to back Hull, folks will stay home.
All right. Let's meet back here to talk about the other races. I appreciate you all weighing in on the governor's races.